Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 27th. Today is Wednesday, right? Yeah, it's Wednesday. I want to talk about something that happened to me and kind of reflect on it. I feel compelled to talk about this, and I leave it open for our discussion. If anybody's got any comments, questions, concerns, or anything, I'm not gonna say I'm this kind of expert or anything. Hello, happy Wednesday, everybody. It's Wednesday, right? I want to talk about something personal, and I'm sure a lot of you have been here yourself in your own lives. Um, and I'll just get right into it. Um, I had a busy day yesterday. I did my taxes finally, came back home, was ready to lay down. It was pretty late. It was like 2 a.m. I fell asleep on the floor actually, got up, got into my bed, and as soon as I was going to hit the sack, this acquaintance or this I want her to be a friend. This gal from across the ocean. I've been following some of her YouTube videos about human design. They're amazing. You should check her out if you know who I'm talking about. But we started having a conversation, and some things bothered me about it. And I've been reflecting on it ever since. I went to bed with some anger, actually. And I woke up feeling like, how do I respond to her? How do I talk to her? Because there's something that she needs to be heard about, and there's something that I need to be heard about, and there's perhaps something that I could learn from this, um, despite it being uncomfortable for me to admit it or to dive into it, and especially to share it with you like this. But I'll give it my best try. If you have any comments, concerns, or anything to add to this, whether it's with your own life or you want to point out something that I say or something that I could look into, feel free. Let's get this discussion rolling. But I'll try not to intellectualize this. So I was talking to her, and I'm not going to say anything verbatim about what we were talking about, but I felt like in the conversation, she wasn't appreciating my attempt at playfulness. I can act like a trickster. I didn't want to talk about Chinese astrology yet, but I'll just interlude right here. I have a lot of yang fire. For any of you who have been following me and have seen my chart and have heard me talk about it, I'm a yin fire sign with a lot of fire. So that illustrates something from my perspective, at least, how I can kind of get carried away with interacting with people, with being like a trickster of sorts, or being a jokester, or being, I know some people have received it as me being belligerent sometimes, just being a silly guy. And I don't think I really have to explain much beyond that. Is that truth? Is it interaction? I don't know. What do you think? I think it depends on where you're looking at, how you're receiving it. But she was distraught by it, and I feel concerned about that, because I don't want her to feel distraught, and I don't want to feel distraught either. While I was talking to her, digging deep, I realized that the kind of the kind of dynamic we were playing with each other while we were talking reminded me of growing up with mom and dad. Sometimes dad just telling me how I should feel, how I should think, talking to me and trying to align me. I realize her intentions are good. She's exploring herself, she's sharing with the world. And if you guys know anything about human design, she's really big into human design. I think design is an amazing tool for all of us to use. It's kind of like it uses astrology, it uses like um, these kinds of systems put together into this multifaceted illustration of how we gauge our lives, how we play out our lives, what kind of roles we play. It's really in depth, like Chinese astrology. So if you're interested in it, I definitely suggest you check it out. It's called Human Design. The website is Jovian Archive, Jovian, and then archive.com. There's a lot of great materials on there. But anyways, she has talks about what it means to be a manifester. And manifesting people are very generally driven to create or to initiate things. And my with how I dive into Chinese astrology and with what I know, I can see some parallels here and there. So I try to talk to her about these things. And I hope that this opens a discussion or opens something new if you're watching. I feel like I have to step on eggshells sometimes when I talk to you, when I talk to this person. Anybody else watching right now, I'm sure you've been there in your own life where it feels like, see, I'm really drawn to her. I really like her. I think she's a wonderful person. I see the light in her, and I also see the shadow that she might have over her shoulders from her upbringing. I can see this because I see my own shadow in its relation to how we might interact. I'm not trying to value, I'm not trying to push you in a corner. I'm not trying to say this is what you are. This is just what I see and what I observe. And I'm sorry that the way that we talked yesterday seemed too intellectualized and seemed too topical. I know you like to get depth, you like to be honest, and I can't help but see how this might be metal or wood or both at play from my perspective with Chinese astrology. And basically, that means to observe something or a person or a situation and to derive some sort of value from that observation itself. So with wood, you can go up and you can complexify it. You can write a book. You can categorize things and make anecdotes and have this really rich medium that can give you an idea about this or that or this person or how you interact with them. Or you can go the opposite way with metal, and you can deduce down and make things kind of like a lowest common denominator, or simpler is the best. This kind of idea of creating an essence from, like, I picture like I'm cooking on a stovetop and I'm making like a red wine sauce, and I'm reducing and reducing and reducing, and it's really simple, but it's really delicious. I feel now, reflecting, that she was looking for this, or she's perhaps energetically inclined to want to have this, or I feel that she's attracted to me in a certain way as well. Like, she's drawn to me. And I think that we have a lot to learn from each other. I really do. I'm an emotional person. I'm trying not to create or to manifest something negative. I'm really averse to that. And so if you're watching this, understand from my perspective that sometimes I feel hesitant in my own skin to react right away. And I feel like you might parallel this and say it's great for emotional manifestors to, because there's a section in Jovian Archiver with Human Design talking about our inner authority. With my chart, and I'm fairly certain with her chart as well, but don't quote me on it, that she has an emotional authority. I definitely have an emotional authority. So that means basically that our visceral experience and what we feel and what we sense and how we interact with the world comes from an intrinsic source within these kinds of people. Other kinds of people who are open, I guess you can say, to emotional reception, they're more susceptible to feeling what other people feel, to being drawn and pulled in certain directions that aren't coming from within themselves or manufactured from the self. Am I being too intellectual? Maybe. I feel bad because I really want to talk to you. I don't want to push you away like I've pushed away a lot of other people. I don't want to be too extreme. However, that's something I value in myself. I can be a very intense person. I was just talking about this yesterday to a good friend of mine who we're getting close. She says, hey, you're a pretty intense guy. And I used to take that kind of looking down and like, oh gosh, how can I be different? How can I not stick out like a sore thumb? But as I age and as I've gone through life's experiences, I really appreciate this about myself. I have a lot to offer. I have a lot of passion. I have some insight. I can be wrong. I'm not an authority by any nature. I don't like to say that I'm an authority. The manner in which I talked yesterday, I was trying to be playful, and she does have, with how she was responding to me about how I was talking to her, she does have, I see her perspective on it. I really do. And I wanted to talk about a little bit what I see from the energetic perspective as well after I get this off my chest. I didn't want it to be necessarily like a ranting video or anything like that, or all about me. Uh, I think that there's some potential here for all of us, because I know that a lot of people have been in these situations as well. I fear that you might reject me, that you might feel, oh, well, he's full of crap, or he's whatever, whatever, and then put me into a box and then say, this is how he is, because we're just acquaintances. We haven't spoken a whole lot. I love your videos. I love what you're about. Um, I, I don't want to give you any suggestions or anything, because I know you're not going to follow them, and you shouldn't follow anyone's suggestions other than your own. Um, but I do feel lonely sometimes in a way that perhaps you don't. You talk a lot about, um, us as manifestors. We need our space, we need our area, we need our own time. I totally get that with me. On the flip side, I understand just as much that I need alone time, that I just as much need time with people and to be involved in this world, and not to be a hermit, and not to be sort of aloof or distanced from what's going on. I need to be part of the discussion, part of the torrent, part of the current. That's a better word. It seems like a torrent at times. I don't want to lose you as a person, because I feel this is completely my own intuition. I feel like we come from a sort of family, like we're coming from the same place. I feel like you've been through an awful lot of trauma in your life, like I have, and that's how our souls can kind of connect on that level. There's something that draws us, but there's that conflict there. There's that distance that we want to give each other. It's like two dragons meet each other in the forest, and they dance around each other, and they're enticed by one another, but they'll snarl if one comes too close, and the other one will be on the edge or edgy. I feel like that. Like there's that with the whole walking on eggshells bit, and that relates to how I grew up with my own parents. With my father, I could never go to him to talk about how I really felt, to bring anything of realness or depth or value to him, because he would immediately just tell me how his perspective is this, and how he sees it from this angle, and he wouldn't receive me in this way. He would push me away. And he taught me, or my experience with him taught me, that I couldn't be candid with him, that I couldn't be really close to him, and that I'd have to just keep a topical friendship or relationship. And so I feel this way with a lot of people that I meet, that I feel really excited to meet, because I can sense or feel something that's wonderful about them, or that I relate to, or that there's something we can learn from each other, and just have friendship for the sake of being friends, not have to overanalyze it or everything. And I feel like I overanalyze, and I feel like you process things because you're very sensitive like me as well. And so I'm not trying to step on your toes or anything. I'm a fiery guy. I have fire. From how I can explain this with the beautiful illustrations of Chinese astrology, I love Chinese astrology because you can illustrate with words and with diagrams and pictures, and you can see things from different angles. I have fire. I have passion. I have playfulness. I have agitation. I have spontaneity and impulsivity. These can be good. These can be bad, depending on what you're looking for, how you want to interact with me. I sensed that you want some clarity in a different way that I want to receive clarity in an energetic. I'm talking about just the energetics right now. I'm not talking about anything deeper than that. Just how we play with each other, how we interact and dance with each other. You're a dancer, and I love that about you. I really do. I've watched some of your videos that way too, so I'm not trying to like stalk on you or anything. I just think you're a beautiful person, and I don't want to give you a wrong impression. I wanted to talk to you before I made this video, but that's just the general thing I wanted to get off my chest. And if anybody who's still watching this, thank you for staying with me. I want to talk just a little bit from the astrological point of view, just to get it out there, because I know that life has challenges, and we can feel afraid, and we can feel like alone, or that we're in a situation where we can be judged, scrutinized. I find often that when I interact with people who have a lot of metal or who rely on metal as their energy and as their endowment, that they like to receive information and interact with people where simplicity is king, where clarity comes from the whole notion of contrast. Here's a line when I'm drawing a picture. The reason I know it's a picture from just a scribbled out something with just tons of ink or just a blank page is that the lines are concise. They're placed where they need to be. When you look at something like this plant that I'm looking across from my living room and I draw it, I create lines to give contrast and to say this is where the leaf ends and starts from anything else that's not the leaf. So it's that whole notion of black and white, this from that, that I've noticed in my own personal interactions with people that sometimes people who don't appreciate fire or who aren't used to fire or who are put on edge by fire, and they really like metal, can feel this kind of irritation. So I'm wondering this. I have no idea. I haven't read this friend's chart. I haven't looked at anything with her energetically, and I'm not going to pressure her to do it. I would love to do a video on that where maybe we can talk about it, or even not even a video, just to talk about it in person. These things excite me, and they I feel like there's potential, not just for ourselves, but for the world in large, for anybody that happens to watch this now or in the future, if it can help them. So I sensed a lot of metal in our interaction. It was a watery day. It was 2 a.m. when I picked up my phone and started talking to you. And I I went to bed on it, and it really bothered me in how it ended. And I felt like it brought me back to childhood, where it felt like I was put in a corner. I was told to look down and to have shame. And I realized this came from myself. And so this is partially a healing session for me, even right now, for this video. But I again, like, I don't want to make this a selfish thing. I want to have this be a tool for everybody. I'm being vulnerable. I'm showing my vulnerability here. I'm being candid and honest, and I know you'll appreciate that. I hope you'll appreciate that. I feel like you will. I'm not perfect, but you know, looking at the astrology today, I can't help but see some things in there that I also want to talk about. Today, guys, if you followed a lot of my past videos in this last month of the fire rabbit, you'll know that the specific circumstances of the fire rabbit for 2019 being an earth pig make it such that the earth or the yearly pillar, so the heavenly stem and the earthly branch of the earth pig of the year pillar of 2019, all of that energy transforms and changes into wood. So we've got a really, really fiery wooden month and year. And today, as soon as midnight hit, we entered another day full of wood. It's a transformation of wood. So we have two wood transformations and a fiery wooden month. So we've got wood, 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 fire. For me, as a fire sign who needs to avoid fire and avoid wood, I feel at times and days that I'll get caught up in things. Perhaps even the ironic part of this is that maybe I'm going too long with this video or getting caught up into something or starting something I maybe shouldn't. But I'll just go with the flow, see how this pans out, how this turns out, and that's how I see it. There's a lot of wood today. There's a lot of things I could get caught up in. There's a lot of things that could feed me or fuel my fire, my tenacity, my playfulness can be really bright and shiny right now. And I know that's not the jam of a whole lot of people. So if you're watching, I didn't mean to offend you. I think you're a wonderful person. And I do feel sad sometimes that I try to approach people with this joy and this playfulness. But I'm listening to you. I know that you maybe want some depth, you want some clarity in a certain way. And so I'd love to talk with you more in private, if that's how you'd prefer, or we can make a video collab or whatever. I'd be totally up for that. So these are just some of my ideas. that come to me right now. And if you guys have anything to add to this, criticize me even. I'm open to see what the day has to offer today. I have the feeling that because it's a wooden day, anything and everything's going to come, right? Like we go into a library, it's got books of all sorts of topics and subjects, and there's thousands and thousands of them. Like the idea of a good library is to have as big and diverse of a collection as possible. So today is a day that's like that, where we step into this library, and depending on who you are, depending on what you need or what you need to avoid, that's going to be either good for you or bad for you. Well, maybe not just good or bad for you, but you could see it that way. I see it as there's a lot of complexity to the day. There's a lot to filter through. And personally, I'm going to try and gain clarity by being receptive to this type of energy, but distancing myself from it where I need to just take a breather and say, this is really intense. This is a lot. This feels like intrusive. Like wood is all about, like, you know how a plant grows in a pot. I use this analogy all the time, but the roots grow in and they grab and they reach and they poke and prod and explore, and they're picky, or they can be like nosy from a certain angle or a certain perspective. But in the same light, sometimes that's needed. Sometimes we need to be poked. Sometimes we need to be, hey, you, look at this, look at that, look at that, look at this, look at this. And it'll feel imposing. I will be as open and as honest as I can about this, and I'll learn what I can from this interaction, and I hope you do too. I hope you guys have a lovely day today. If wood is great for you, I wish you very many blessings with options and with things and people on the periphery that you might not be inclined to observe or to see or take advantage of. If wood is a great thing for you in your chart and you need to embellish it, I wish you many blessings in this. If wood is a challenge for you in today's chart, I wish you reflection. I wish you intuition in knowing what your limit is, what you need to get off your chest, when it is you need to back off and wrap things up, et cetera, et cetera. So having said that, I need to wrap this video up. I didn't mean for it to go on forever, but as is how I tend to be here. I'm an earthy guy too, so I have a lot of depth and I have a lot of insight to share from my perspective, from my journey myself, and it's depth. It's heavy. It's dense. It's earth. So that's my baby, and I can get kind of irritated when wood tries to invade that, and I have so much fire in me. It acts as a buffer to that, so I can get really, really heated or really, really hot. But for the person who I initially started this video on, I hope that we have a wonderful friendship, that we're able to talk more and to openly express more with each other and not be so guarded, including myself. I'm speaking from my own accord, but I feel like you're guarded as well in a certain way, as you should be. I feel like you've been through an awful lot in your life. And I want to acknowledge that, and I want to say that I hear you on that, whether you intended to say this or not. And so I hope that we have many, many more sessions in the future, that we are able to talk with each other and to learn and to grow and to become great friends in this life. So with that, I wish you only the best as well. And we'll talk again soon, guys.